Do you think games are just toys? Well, that's nice for you, isn't it? But there are plenty of people who feel differently. Whoops. I was preaching a bit, wasn't I? Well, listen to my story. Maybe you'll understand. Live Alive, that Super Famicom game that your hipster JRPG-loving friend won't shut up about. The one you only found out about because you accidentally typed Megalomania into a YouTube search instead of Megalovania. The heck is this? Wait, what is this channel? Please read the channel description. Banner art. Wait, is that Granddad? As a hipster JRPG-loving friend, I can't shut up about how much I love Live Alive. You might think it's because it's an SNES-era JRPG with atypical combat, an amazing soundtrack, and non-conventional story progression. Okay, yes, that's exactly why. But more importantly, Live Alive has a story that firmly grips my heart and makes me feel something fierce. It holds its cards close to its chest, but once it plays its hand, you're in for a ride. It's the kind of story where sometimes, while I'm taking a shower, my mind will just wander to it, causing me to just stand there as the water washes over me and think to myself, damn. I know I'm overhyping it, but this video is titled Why I Love Live Alive, and not Why You Should Love Live Alive. I'm going to get very personal about my feelings and life experiences, and use this game's story as a jumping off point to talk about the kind of person I strive to be. This will require me to spoil the game, but I'll let you know when that's coming. For now, let's talk about that sweet, sweet, atypical combat, amazing soundtrack, and non-conventional story progression. Live Alive opens with 7 different scenarios, all taking place in different eras, each resembling a movie or story genre. From a badass outlaw in the Wild West to a sentient robot solving a murder mystery in space, the scenarios are vastly different from one another, each providing a unique experience. They can be completed in any order, and each story is completely self-contained. Now I already know what you're thinking. Fox, I think multiple characters with self-contained stories based on movie genres is cute and all. But will they come together in the end to form a cohesive conclusion that will satisfy me? Damn. The Wild West chapter stars the Sundown Kid, an outlaw pursued by a bounty hunter who happens upon a town under duress. The premise is that you must find and set up traps to thin the ranks of a gang of outlaws, but must be quick as you're under a time limit as they approach. How well you do determines the difficulty of the final boss fight, with the possibility of removing everyone but the leader himself. Prehistoric chapter has you play as a caveman named Pogo in a world before words. Everyone communicates in grunts and emojis, and your job is to hide and defend a woman from an enemy tribe who wishes to use her as a sacrifice. In the sci-fi chapter, you control a sentient robot in space where a murder mystery takes place. Despite having almost no combat, it's a tense, moody scenario where you must help solve who's behind the deaths of the crew. The modern chapter has you play Street Fighter II in JRPG form. You heard me right. You're Masaru, the mixed martial artist who's basically a blue mage, seeking to learn all sorts of powerful moves by being bashed in the face with them. While being the shortest of the stories, it's also quite challenging, as it almost feels like a puzzle figuring out which moves will be most helpful and which order to take everyone on. I have to say that the Kung Fu chapter is likely my favorite. You play as an old Kung Fu master whose strength is declining due to age, and so he sets out to find a pupil to inherit his art and continue his legacy. You train these new students in order to choose who the next master will be, as well as get into a feud with a rival school. For the record, I always choose Lei Kugo. She's the best. Look how cool she is. The ninja chapter has you play as Oboromaru, a shinobi who must infiltrate a castle and rescue a political prisoner. There are multiple ways to accomplish this, and you can complete your mission by killing 0 or all 100 people. Many traps, secrets, and hidden passageways are all throughout the castle, and how you go about it is up to you. Or you could just turn around and leave and then get hunted down by your own clan as an outcast. Good luck with that. The final chapter is Mecha, taking place in the near future. You play as Akira, an orphaned teenager with the ability to read the minds of others. With your psycho powers, the guy from the taiyaki stand, and a robot turtle, you must crush the Crusaders gang and stop a string of kidnappings. What will you do when the entire army threatens to wipe out the city? Atsui kokoro ga yobisamasu buriki daiyo waretori. How are you sleeping through this, Kingston? Seriously? The battle system of Live Alive rules. You'll notice that fights take place on a 7x7 grid, with attacks having varied specific ranges depending on the skill. While most attacks happen instantly, some attacks have a charge time until they come out. If you set them to a specific location and the enemy moves before the charge finishes, then they'll miss. You could also get interrupted by a move with knockback, which interrupts your charging. You, of course, could also do this to an enemy. How does time work in Live Alive battles? Well, that's very simple. Enemy turns are based on action points and order points, which are very easily explained by the Live Alive wiki. Let's take a look. While ally actions can be taken at almost any time, enemy actions follow certain rules. The enemy party has a value called action points, and if this value exceeds 255, the enemy with the largest order point value of all enemies individually takes action points happens to encounter many of the same enemy. The enemy with the highest enemy number will act. This enemy number is coded into each enemy encounter from each the order point value in the strategy style is given by this formula. This means that the higher the IQ stat of the enemy, the smaller this value is. So at the beginning of the battle, the enemies. Okay, so the mechanics under the hood are complex, but the truth is that it's actually very simple. When you do attack, they get to do attack. If you move around a bunch, that counts as your turn. If your skill has a charge, they might get to do something before it finishes. Simple, right? That's all you really need to know. What's really cool is how various attacks and items can debuff enemies, as well as buff yourself. These have very tangible results. For example, lowering an enemy's level can reduce their damage, and debuffing some bosses will result in them being susceptible to status effects they previously resisted. Speaking of status effects, there's Stun, Sleep, Poison, and Stone, which all do what you'd expect, as well as Drunk, which disables most of your moves and can cause you to move at random, and the disabling of hand or foot specific attacks. Remember, when training your pupils, break all of their limbs so they grow back stronger. This is how Kung Fu works. One of my favorite design choices is that you start every battle with full HP. I'm always a huge fan of this, as I tend to enjoy more difficult fights balanced around knowing you start at full health, as opposed to the resource management of dungeon crawling. When you get reduced to 0 HP in battle, you get knocked down, but can still be healed to be brought back up. Be careful though, as any hit on a downed ally will result in them being removed from the fight. Also, the terrain and positioning matters. Attacking an enemy from the side or back will give you greater accuracy and damage, and some attacks will leave behind damage tiles of various elements that everyone will either take damage or heal from if stood in. Some battles even have trap enemies that will attack you only in specific positions that you have to puzzle your way around. There's even a mechanic where being an enemy controlling robots or pets will result in a breakdown where they all cease to function. It's honestly such a cool battle system that has a solid amount of complexity while still being straightforward enough to just pick up and play. You're really rewarded for playing around with the tools that various characters have, which leads to a lot of genuinely fun strategies to pull off. It's time. In order to continue, I'm going to need to get into spoilers. Unfortunately, I can't give you a timestamp to skip them, as I need to make references back to this game to explain how it ties into my personal anecdotes and feelings. There's 2 levels of spoilers, so you'll get one more warning, but if the first half of this video got you pumped up to play this game right now, then I encourage you to go do so, and come back and watch the rest of this video later. While I still think this game is absolutely worth playing despite knowing what happens, I myself got to play this game completely blind in 2018. I don't want to take that away from anyone else. Anyway, here's your first spoiler warning, because it's time to get into this. Once you complete all 7 scenarios, you're brought back to the select screen, but with a brand new 8th scenario. All the previous ones had a description before you chose them, but night is presented to you without one, and selecting it immediately brings you in. It's the medieval scenario, and it starts off with Orsted in a tournament to determine who will win the honor to marry Princess Alicia. Facing off against your good friend Strabo, he learns the hard way what happens when a knight closes in on a mage. Look man, he told you not to hold back, but did you really have to BM him by slashing him with a V for victory? Alicia is pleased with the results as she loves you being strong, and the king hosts a grand feast to celebrate. The 2 immediately fall madly in love and look forward to starting a wonderful life together. That is until Alicia is suddenly captured by the Demon King, a being who was defeated many years ago by the hero Hash and his comrade Uranus. You vow to save the princess, and the king appoints you as the new hero of the land, as Hash now lives in the mountains as a hermit, and Uranus retired to a quiet life in town. As you head off, Strabo appears, not willing to let you head off to fight the Demon King alone. Both set out to find out how to enter the Forbidden Land by seeking the aid of the previous heroes. This is where you'll notice that now you run into random encounters, something that didn't exist in the previous 7 scenarios, which always had enemies represented by a sprite on a map. On top of that, Orsted is a silent protagonist. In fact, all of this seems much closer to the typical JRPGs of the past, much different than what Live Alive has been so far. The hermit won't speak to you, but traveling down to the small town, you find Uranus and explain to him the situation. He explains how after defeating the Demon King, the people quickly forgot about their heroes, and the 2 of them felt unappreciated and discarded. While Uranus retired to the country, Hash really took it to heart and became a hermit, upset at how he was treated despite saving the land. You all set out to snap him out of his sulking, and after Uranus calls him a coward, Hash the tsundere armors up, heads to his fake grave to unearth his buried sword, and vows to defeat the Demon King yet again. The sword unlocks the way to the Forbidden Land, and it doesn't take long to fight your way to his lair. Also, you pass through a room of statues that look a lot like the final bosses of the previous scenarios, which I'm sure is just as unimportant as the fact that all those bosses just happen to have a name that's a variation of the word ODO, which means hatred in a bunch of different languages. This is your final spoiler warning. If you leave now, I hope you come back and watch the rest, and thank you for watching so far. You find the Demon King, and despite him being able to one-shot Strabo, he is defeated, but something feels amiss. Hash swears that it can't be the real Demon King, as he wasn't powerful enough, and also reveals that he has the plague and is dying. He gives you his sword, the Bryon, and tells you to continue on and save Alicia, that as long as one person believes in you, to not lose hope. Just then, the room shakes violently, and Strabo explains that a trap has been sprung. You all run to escape, but Strabo doesn't make it, and the cave-in prevents you from going further. Defeated, Orsted and Uranus have no choice but to retreat and deliver the news to the king. The king tells you both to rest. Orsted thinks he is woken by Strabo, but when he follows, he finds the Demon King in the throne room. He confronts him and easily defeats him. However, it's not the Demon King. Tricked by an illusion, Orsted has slain the king. The Chancellor runs in, and Orsted is declared the demon for murdering the king, and assumed to have also killed Hash and Strabo. No one will listen to Orsted or Uranus, and Uranus is captured while yelling for Orsted to escape. Now in exile, Orsted wanders sullenly before deciding to return to the kingdom and turn himself in. Thrown in jail and sentenced for execution, a tortured Uranus uses the last of his power to allow Orsted to escape, telling him to run off and save Alicia. But as long as one person still believes in him, to not lose hope. Orsted runs off and rushes to the Forbidden Land. But what meets him at the end isn't the Demon King. It's Strabo. Jealous and bitter at playing second fiddle to Orsted, he faked his death and tricked him into slaying the king, doing everything he could to make him fall into despair. The two of them fight, and upon defeating Strabo, Orsted finds Alicia, who tells him to get away. That she waited for him to come save her, but he never did, and that Strabo was the one to save her instead. She then vows to join him and takes her own life. Filled with despair over what just happened, for the first time, Orsted speaks out loud. He says there's nothing left for him, nothing to return to, nothing to love, nothing but demons. He vows to repay humanity for what it has done to him, and that he is no longer Orsted. He is the Demon King, Odio. Roll the scenario credits and alright, we did it! We beat the medieval scenario! Yay, good guys! This is where you're prompted to select your final protagonist and begin the last chapter of the game. Who you pick is mostly for flavor, as well as the character you're locked into using until the end. What's interesting though is that you can pick Orsted. Instead of continuing on to the final chapter, he gets his own special section where you use those statues to take control of the bosses of all the previous scenarios and stomp out the protagonists. You're rewarded with a completely empty world devoid of life, as Orsted wanders around to bask in the sadness of his empty victory. Right on! Also, if you get low on HP in this mode, the flee command changes to Armageddon, and you can obliterate existence. You're not beating me. No, I didn't take that much damage. No, I'm winning. I'm the winner. See, look at me winning. Look at, you're all dead now. Everything's dead. I win. No, I'm the winner. After you pick your final protagonist, we find that Odio is transporting the heroes from across time to his land to show them that humanity is irredeemable, that being a hero is just them being taken advantage of, and they should all be like him and see the world for what it is. The heroes respond by banding together, entering their own personal dungeons that are based around their strengths, getting their ultimate weapons from inside, and then shooting the Demon King in his giant grape-filled eyes until he corncobs back into a night. He tells you to finish him, and if you do, you're stuck in this world to wander around forever. Instead, you spare him and walk away like a total badass. Upon entering the room with the statues, however, you'll find out that I wasn't joking about corncobbing, as Odio comes back insisting that they haven't won, and you're forced into a boss rush. Except it's a complete victory lap, where you defeat them all even easier than before, and Orsted is forced to question why he just can't win. What is the difference between he and them? Every protagonist has their own response to him, but in the end, he's forced to realize that he was wrong. That just because humanity wronged him doesn't mean it was right for him to throw his own humanity away. He states that when he dies, they'll all be able to return to the worlds, but gives one final warning. Anyone can become a king of demons, as long as hatred still exists in any world, at any time. The miasma disappears from the land, and everyone is returned to their own worlds to have an amazing ending sequence. I haven't mentioned it until now, but this was the first OST that Yoko Shimomura made for Square. God damn is she amazing. Live Alive really hit hard for me. The entire concept of a hero who always set out to do the right thing, being constantly betrayed, is a brutal one. And I don't think anyone can look at Orsted and truly fault him for turning into the Demon King. When the conditions are right, even the most righteous will turn their back on humanity. And depending on the circumstances, who can blame them? I'm gonna bare my soul a bit here, so if this gets a little heavy, you've been warned. I myself have often had a very dark view of humanity and outlook in life. While one of my parents is one of the most loving people I've ever met, the other was, in many ways, a bitter and evil person. A lot of that was taken out on me, and as a result, there was a lot of pain in my heart. On top of this, I didn't realize I was trans until I was late in my teens. There was a lot wrong with me that made me feel very awkward as a person, and as a result, I was often bullied and felt alone. I saw how trans people were treated back then, and I made a promise to myself not to become a bitter person, to not hate people just because they were bigoted. When I finally came out and transitioned, I unfortunately broke that promise. Enough things were done to me that made me a very bitter person. To be angry at people as a whole for treating me that way, just for what I am. Surgeries would have complications, which furthered my despair and made it difficult to not be bitter. I lashed out at people, and yeah, the vast majority of the time, people deserved it. But sometimes, it was at people who didn't. I still remember a turning point quite a few years ago. After a huge surgery complication, I was bedridden and realized I didn't want to be bitter anymore. I laid there and played games because there wasn't much else I could do. So I ended up playing Valhalla and decided I needed to stop lashing out at people and pay more attention to the people who care about me. Then I played Nier Automata and bawled the whole way through. I just cried all the bitterness out of my heart, knowing deep down that it wasn't truly what I wanted. It's not what I really felt about humanity. As I healed, I began streaming full-time to help work on my social anxiety while I recovered. During this time, my viewers suggested that I play Live Alive. You can see now why it left such a strong impression on me. You know, I don't think games are just silly little things, and that they can convey strong emotions and have something real to express. A character who felt the world wronged him, so he lashed out against the world? It was everything I didn't want to be, but was afraid I was becoming. And the heroes of the story, ones who looked at hardship, but instead just fought even harder because they believed in the good in the world and rejected the idea of succumbing to hatred. It's not as if this is some profound concept that Live Alive is presenting, but it does it in a unique medium that circumvents expectations, especially when it came back out in 1994, and I still think it's meaningful today. Because it's true. If people are hateful, they can force even good people to become bitter and jaded in response. It's something a lot of us struggle with, and something that really resonates with me. I don't want to be bitter. I want to bring joy to others. It's why I stream games online for people to hang out, why I want a space for people to find joy in, why I make videos like this gushing about the things I love. Regardless of how simple you think this game's story is, it's still a powerful one, and it's why I love Live Alive so much. It's an extremely fun game to play that just oozes with charisma and joy, and has a tragedy that serves as a hopeful warning to fight against the bitter nihilism of an uncaring world and triumph over it. Wow, did Voxandra really make an entire Live Alive video essay, but not play the song Megalomania a single time? It's no game, live or die. No time for losers, bees keep on fighting. Let's get down, now's the time. The past is gone, I cannot look back. I have no love, all I see now is sadness. Sky has no mercy, every day is so dark, just cry, cry, cry. I have no one, all I have now is you. Somebody save me, cause I wanna be free. I try, try, try. Where to go, who to be, losing my time, eating me up inside. Let's get up, rise to shine. It's now or never, I cannot go back. But where's my hope? All I see now is darkness. Life has no meaning, every night I wake up just cry, cry, cry. I have no one, all I have now is you. Someday I'll get up, cause I gotta be free, just try, try, try. A new horizon, destiny is approaching me now. Keep trying, burning desire, never let go the victory now. Keep fighting. Thank you to all the supporters from Patreon. We got the Executive Gamers, Adam Admar, and Greenlows, and the Licensed Gamers, Madden Medley, Aaron Bunny, and Lissa. Don't you dare forget about the Certified Gamers. Thanks for the support. Twitch is the main way people support me, and the Patreon is just extra from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you all. I don't make videos often, but I'm streaming most nights of the week on Twitch. Go to voxandra.gay. Yes, that's a real link. This was super personal to make, but sometimes you just gotta be sincere about what you love, and if someone gives you shit for the video game story, influence yourself, grow to the person, then they can go audio orbit out to another planet! It's too late, win or lose, no chance of winning. Gotta stop this, I'm hurting. Is this fate? What's the use? The past is gone, this is survival. I have no love, all I see now is loneliness. Sky has no mercy, every day lay down, just cry, cry, cry. I have no one, all I have now is you. Somebody save me, cause I wanna break out. I try, 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 win to fight. There's no tide, my heart is rising. Suddenly there's no sound around. Endless fight, live or die. Time has no mercy, what a death battle. But where's my joy? All I feel now is madness. Life has no meaning, every night I wake up just cry, cry, cry. I have no one, all I have now is you. Someday I'll get up, so I gotta be strong, just try, try, try. See the horizon, destiny is approaching me now. Keep trying, burning desire, never let go the victory now. Keep fighting, a new horizon, destiny is approaching me now. Keep trying, burning desire, never let go the victory now. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so very much.